Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us here. I can see we've got a couple of different countries at least represented today. So how exciting. And we really, like I said, appreciate you taking time during your busy day to join us here for this info session. So we've got a few more people logging in here. So I wanted to just spend a couple minutes on just kind of setting the agenda for what this call here and kind of talking about some of the logistics around it. So first of all, my name is Matt Urban. I'm the Director of Marketing and Admissions here at New Apprenticeship. We have a presentation for you, 5, maybe 7, 8 slides. I'm hoping to go through that pretty quickly and then dedicate the rest of the time to specific Q&A. I think that's where the majority of the value is going to come in. So try to get through that really quickly. I'm also joined by at least one other person on the new apprenticeship team. Several, actually. I see someone else that I'm going to promote to a panelist. Excellent. So we have a few different people here on the new team. They're really excited just to help and yes, to provide different perspectives or more detail on some of the questions. Erin Ibsen is on here, our content marketing manager, as well as Christian Hartley, who is our senior program manager. She's going to be your person for more of the in-depth questions around how the programs operate. So last thing that I wanted to call out, if you guys are, if you can see kind of in your Zoom panel, there is a few different options down there. There's the chat, which I see some of you guys are already in, which is great. There's also this section called Q&A. This is what I would encourage you guys, if you have questions at any point, to use the Q&A, because this helps us know when they're asked, when we can answer them. And we're going to try to get to those as soon as possible. So please direct your questions to the Q&A. If we have an opportunity to answer them kind of organically during the presentation, we will. If not, we will get to them after we make it through everything. All right. Well, then I'm just going to share screen here quickly. And like I said, run through this presentation. And here we go. Okay, well, so I mentioned my name is Matt with the new apprenticeship team. And I always like to start off these presentations just talking about like not only who we are, but what we do it, why we do it. And if you've made it this far in the process, you know that we're an apprenticeship program. We focus specifically on tech occupations. It is this hybrid model of learning and working at the same time. So there's a handful of different ways that apprenticeship can actually be fulfilled. But that's the way that we do it. And I'll get into a little bit more detail throughout the presentation. But the really important part, I think, is why we do it. And you probably on here know better than any that the hiring system for tech doesn't work. For a lot of places doesn't work, but especially within tech. There is this old indicator of what it means to be ready for a tech job as a 4-year degree, which we know isn't the only thing. There are many talented people out there who have great skills, certifications, even just the desire and the passion to start a role, but can't get an opportunity because they don't have 3 years of experience in a tech job. Just creates this vicious cycle. So what we do is we believe we are kind of that bridge. We want to be the ones to sort of enable a pathway to go from where our interested applicants are right now. So high school, community college, military, transitioning different careers, wherever it is, to be able to join the apprenticeship, get some technical skills that are necessary to start that kind of day one, not the whole list of 200 things on a job description, right? The really core technical skills necessary to start one, with the recognition from everyone, from ourselves, from our apprentices, and most importantly from the employers, that our apprentices are going to learn on the job, not only through the experiences in their day to day, but also through the additional coaching, the additional curriculum, certifications, portfolio projects, things like that, that really are going to enable career growth and acceleration. So that's kind of more of who we do and what we do. Um, I want to start off though really quickly and just talk about some of the qualifications for the program. So what we have, they are a couple things I want to call out. And this first one here at the very bottom, I unfortunately, for the majority of our employers, the way that the apprenticeship roles are set up, bachelor's degrees, if you've received a bachelor's degree, you may not be eligible to participate. There's some reasons for that, and it's not for everything. However, that's where the majority of our apprenticeship roles, how we've set up the majority of the apprenticeship roles. Outside of that, though, there's a couple other core things for your eligibility. The ability to work in the US. That is the work authorization, like I mentioned, apprenticeship, this simultaneous work experience and learning, that is necessary. And unfortunately, right now, our employers are not sponsoring visas. So a quick note there. As far as education minimum, though, a high school diploma or an equivalency is really what we require to be able to do that. If you've gone through and you've taken some college classes, if you have completed your associate degree already, even better. It's just that if you're, even if you're 90% of the way to a bachelor's degree but haven't yet attained it, you're still okay to be able to participate. Then the other thing is we have on here, depending on what program you're interested, what you may have to demonstrate some specific competencies, the technical in a programming language or having attained a relevant certification. We really try to remove any barriers of participation. So if you don't have this yet right now, but you really have the drive to be able to and the ability to learn quickly, within our applications process, we do provide some resources, some training materials, and a way to accomplish that whatever technical foundation to be able to move into the boot camp. So that's kind of the qualifications. As far as what this looks like on the timeline, our boot camps, and I'll go into a little bit more of those, are between 8 to 12 weeks long. For those that complete the boot camp, are provided with an opportunity to interview with an employer. And so that interview is for a full-time apprenticeship position. So that means salary, PTO, health benefits, things like that. So starting with that salary, and while you're working full-time, when you start at working full-time, you're also going to be going to the apprenticeship sessions. And these are, the experience is kind of similar to, for those of you that may be working full-time jobs and then going to night classes. It would kind of be similar. The big difference is that, number one, for the apprenticeship program, there's no costs associated with it for you. And then all of the actual curriculum, the coaching, the things are really integrated into what is most relevant for you on the job. So it's just a really refined kind of way to find it, and really, we think, really cost efficient way to continue to grow yourselves while gaining that experience. Last thing on here, you can kind of see this continuing learning and education. It's something that all of us should be doing at all points. I mention it specifically here, though, because for some of our programs, we have articulation agreements with a university called Southern New Hampshire University that will enable you to, through your apprenticeship coursework, you may be able to essentially transfer over or test out of up to 30 credit hours that can be applied towards attaining your bachelor's degree. So basically through certifications that you've earned, you would be able to say after that 12-month period, you could apply up to 30 credit hours towards a bachelor's degree in IT. So really important for what we want to do, our model, and how we want to accomplish this continual learning while keeping costs down or eliminated for our apprentices. So just a quick kind of expectation management. I will probably let Christian talk on this a little bit more later on, but the boot camp and the apprenticeship learning can be intense. It moves quickly. It is it's part-time. We say about 15 hours a week, but it's a lot. I mean, it's really a lot. And I don't say that to scare anyone. I just say that so that when you're coming into this, this is going to move quickly. And so if you might want to make time and space in your life for it to be able to really be successful in the boot camp. As far as this is just a high level journey map. I mentioned that at the end of the boot camp is when you interview for that apprenticeship role. Unfortunately, it's not a guaranteed. It's not guaranteed that you're going to get hired. It is still what we think is a really streamlined, accelerated interview process. The majority of roles only require a single interview, which is because you've demonstrated throughout the boot camp that you've been earning either certifications or working towards portfolio projects, the really relevant things. So most of the time, like I said, it is a single interview, but ultimately the hiring decision is with our employer partners. And so they will let you know afterwards. Now, there are ways that if you interview and you're not offered the position, there are opportunities where you can do a quick retraining and then be resubmitted for an interview a few weeks later for a second interview. So it's not just if you don't get hired, we kick you out and say thanks. Thanks. We really try to exhaust all opportunities for our apprentices to start these full-time roles, because that's what success is for everyone, for our apprentices, of course, but for ourselves, for our employer partners. That's a goal that we are all aiming towards. So those that are hired, though, then begin the apprenticeship. I have a slide quickly around different coaching and mentoring, a really important part of what our program makes a little bit different. So not only technical skill development, but leadership. And then in addition to certifications that you'd earn throughout the apprenticeship, there is this U.S. Department of Labor certification as an apprentice. So that's we are a registered apprenticeship program through U.S. DOL, which means that we have a lot of reporting, but also very strict things that we need to adhere to in order to be able to maintain this registered apprenticeship status. One other important note that I didn't mention, that after the 12-month apprenticeship ends, you are still an employee at the organization. You do not, it's not a 12-month contract in which you have to reapply or anything like that. You're a W-2 employee from the first day you're hired. So the hope and the goal is that you will grow within the organization and have a very long and prosperous career at that partner company. Certainly, one of the things we hope to see as well. The bootcamp training, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but typically our sessions are Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, 6:30 to 8:30 Eastern. It can change. It can vary a little bit based on the program and based on some which occupation, which cohort you start in, but that's kind of generally how it operates. And then the apprenticeship is really similar. It scales back a little bit to 2 nights a week instead of 3, because we want to recognize that you're also going to be working those 40-hour plus jobs with your employer company. The coaching I mentioned is also a really important aspect of what we do and what we provide. So you throughout the boot camp process, you will have a coach that is going to be helping for your performance and your job readiness training. Then when you start the apprenticeship program, you also have a performance coach that you'll meet with that is designed to help you on kind of the day-to-day obstacles, as well as a leadership coach, where you'd be discussing topics like strategic communications or managing up, things that are really vital for all of us as we try to become leaders, to really be able to talk through and learn and grow with. Next steps, if you haven't already, we have I think a fairly short application process. We're going to gather some information that we need. Then based on that information, we're going to try to find the best program match for you. Then you get a follow-up email after you submit it with kind of next steps. If you need a project or demonstrating one of those competencies, we'll let you know about that in the follow-up email. And then you may also then move on to an interview, and you'll also talk with the new team for 30 minutes, and then the decision will be made, and we'll let you know for the upcoming cohort start date. So that's it. I probably talked a little bit longer. I went in a little bit longer than I was hoping to, but hopefully that presentation was informative. We're going to get into some of the Q&A as well. But before we do that, I wanted to see if anyone else on the new team here wanted to add anything, if I missed anything, if there was anything that they wanted to talk about the program before we start getting into some of the specific Q&As. Okay, well, then let me
Matt, I was gonna,
Oh, yeah.
sorry, my name's Taryn. I am the enrollment manager for the admissions team. I know we're getting a lot of questions about bachelor's degrees and for a specific field. As Matt stated earlier, I think our digital marketing program is the only one currently with some flexibility with degrees, but as far as our AWS, IT, and data apprenticeship programs, they're not currently available to learners who have a bachelor's degree or higher at this time. So I just wanted to provide some clarification around that.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Taryn, for that. Okay, well, I'm going to start jumping into some of these Q&As, and we'll try to get through them as quickly as we can. There was a question around the contract and agreement I assume that's related to our apprenticeship agreement. I think that we may have a generic PDF version of that. I think probably the best way might be to send us an email to see if just for the agreement. But I'll take a second to talk kind of high level around what the agreement, why we have the agreement, because while there's no cost to you as an apprentice, the agreement kind of states that, hey, you're committing to this program, right? You're committing to do this training, to attend these sessions, to work as part of a cohort, to build your portfolio, to do all these things. And we're committing to providing you a learning experience, experience that can prepare you for a job and for an apprenticeship. So I think that's kind of just the high level of what we do. I will say a quick asterisk on the cost for the cost portion. So for certifications, the certification vouchers will be provided. However, if you do not pass your certification the first time, I think our policy is to, on the second attempt, split that cost 50-50. with you, and then I think all subsequent attempts after that are would be full. There wouldn't be any reimbursement for. So, and I'm getting a little bit more specific. So I say generally there's no cost. However, depending on the certification, the number of attempts to take it, there may be some out of pockets if you don't pass that the first time. Christian, did I capture that correctly?
Yes, that was perfectly said.
Great. The next question I see is what's covered in the boot camp. So the boot camp, we have multiple different boot camps. So we have a boot camp for each of our occupations. So it's going to be difficult to answer that specifically because that could vary, but I want to send out a website to everyone that I think will be helpful here in the chat. There is a landing page where we put on our different occupations, the different apprenticeship programs with links that have kind of important dates and certifications, syllabus, things like that, which should give you a pretty good kind of rundown of what to expect for the program. As far as applying for multiple programs, the answer is yes, you can apply for multiple programs. Essentially, when you go through our application based on your preferences, the locations that you're able to work at, what we try to do is match you with the one that we think is the best fit. However, during your interview process or through your admissions process, if you say, hey, look, I really want to apply for X apprenticeship, reach out and let us know. There's a lot of one thing that I didn't mention that I really want to call out here is that while all of our boot camp, apprenticeship, training, learning, coaching, all that is done remotely, our employment, the actual jobs from our employers, the majority of them, the overwhelming majority of them are in person. So you'll see when you apply, it'll ask you to put the what primary work location you'd be able to. Those are driven by the roles that are available by our employer companies. So unfortunately, those roles, we have some, we know what roles in what cities are available kind of a few months out. We don't have, just based on business needs, I can't tell you how many roles are going to be available in January in Dallas for X occupation. So that's why if you see kind of our boot camp scheduled, right, I think our last boot camp planned is in July. Basically, that represents open apprenticeship opportunities in that occupation for those locations up through the what would be, I think, the third quarter. So we'll be updating that as soon as we know from our employers where they need people and what roles. But that's where, as you're going through the application process, you may see you may apply for X apprenticeship at in your city, and then receive an email that says like, hey, unfortunately, we don't have that apprenticeship for you there, but we do have this other one. Are you interested? So hope that helps. Ooh, there's a good question about as a data scientist. I am not the right person to answer this, but at least I can tell you what I've understood working with one of our data scientists. And Christian, you can jump in as well. But the answer is, I think the answer is yes. I mean, it's a stepping stone. I think as far as becoming a data scientist, I haven't seen many like direct routes to just applying from nothing to data scientist. A route might be going up through a data engineer, a data analyst, senior data analyst, then a data scientist. But I believe that the way that we have the curriculum set up and some of the topics that are designed to be a kind of data, touch a range of data topics, that it will help to become a data scientist.
Yes, I think you said the correct words, Matt. I'm sorry, I don't have my video on. I think you said the correct word, stepping stone. Analyst would be like that stepping stone, the boot camp and getting hired with emphasis, getting that experience under your belt and furthering your career and education and becoming a data scientist. So that's a higher up degree and program, but this is definitely a stepping stone to get you there. And you also earn college credits in the apprenticeship. So there's college credits to help along with those stepping stones.
Excellent. I see a question around relocation. So yeah, flexibility for, if the question was around flexibility, if you individually are flexible for relocation, then we do have an option for that when you apply. It says that you'd be open for any location. If it's not quite any location, but there are multiple locations, we'd ask that you select your kind of primary location first, and then it gives you an option to select other locations as well that you'd be available for. So we'll use that information as we're trying to find the best program match for you, or at least a recommended program match for you. And then after that, if you have questions, right, we can kind of handle those on a one-off basis. I don't know that we have a question around Oracle Linux knowledge, a little bit of AWS. That one, I don't know that I can necessarily answer. We do have an AWS apprenticeship program that right now is on hold until we define what and where those next roles are available. However, if you have AWS knowledge, that would be good. Linux, I think, would also be applicable to our data apprenticeship as well. But, again, that's just a very high level understanding. I'm not deep into this. So hopefully that helps. We see a question around job openings after you finish boot camp. Well, what we try to do is we try not to have anyone start a boot camp unless there's job roles available at the end of it. To my knowledge, Christian might be able to speak to this more. I think we do a pretty good job of that, of making sure that there are openings. Of course, business needs can change. And if something were to happen when we were anticipating there was an opening, you go through boot camp and it, for whatever reason, doesn't become available. As I mentioned earlier, like we're all going for this same goal. So I think what we would do is basically, are there other openings and other employers for that location? When would the next available role for that employer be at that location? I think we would kind of exhaust all different options to be able to get you an available role. But it is really, your point is just difficult. Like things can change, like we saw with COVID. We had some of our employers have hiring freezes until they understood what was happening. So not to say that anything that dramatic will happen again, knock on wood, but that would be kind of an example.
Yeah, I think you answered that very nicely, Matt, especially when it comes to, when you're enrolled in the boot camp, we definitely anticipate there is a job opening for you. So moving through the boot camp with success, meeting all the criteria, finishing the assignments, being engaged in the program and interviewing with the company, you're interviewing for a spot, right? That's an open spot in the company. But unless something happens, unforeseen events, other than that, then yes, the position is open if you're in the boot camp and interviewing for the position.
Great. Well, everyone, I need to head out to a meeting, but Christian, Taryn, Aaron are going to be able to stay here and help respond to any other questions. I just want to say thank you all again for joining here, and we can all, we thank you for your interest, and hope to talk again soon. So Christian, if you wouldn't mind, or Taryn, either one, both of you can, if you wouldn't mind jumping in. Awesome, thank you.
You're welcome.
Alrighty, so I think we have a question around bachelor's degree candidates for computer science if you need assistance looking for a job. So all of the apprenticeships and boot camps are intended to be attached to a job. For a bachelor's in computer science, the only program that we have available for bachelor's candidates is our digital marketing apprenticeship. That one does have some flexibility with employer partners, more so than our other programs. So that's why it is open to those candidates who have earned a bachelor's or higher. And then what employers we're partner with. So Infosys is a huge partner for a lot of our programs. So for our IT and our data programs, for our digital marketing programs, our employers vary and are based primarily in the Austin, Texas area and San Antonio, Texas area. And then as far as during the enrollment process, I think there's a question around kind of criteria. So that information as far as like eligibility is pretty standard. It's on the site. And then once learners go through the enrollment process, I would say the interview is a big determining factor as long as completing the other steps in the enrollment process to qualify for admittance into the program. Sorry, I'm trying to look through the ones that are left. So for the tech process associate, I believe that you may be referring to our tech support apprenticeship. That program is not currently offered, but the partner with that is Infosys.
And I can speak more to that just around the tech process associate role if you want me to, Tara.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, so the tech process associate role, a lot of it is related to the material that you will be learning in the boot camp. So it's the fundamentals of IDLE, ServiceNow, and intro to scripting. So when you're interviewing with Infosys, this particular partner, they will be looking for like the fundamental skills that you learn in the bootcamp in order to qualify for the tech process associate role. And that also goes for the data program and AWS program as well. So the fundamental skills that you're learning in the program, they are looking to like see what did you comprehend, what is your understanding, and how can you apply this on the job.
And I think we have a few more questions. I know we're getting questions in the chat, so if you can please try to put them in the Q&A, that way we can make sure we're answering them all. So for job opportunities in Houston, we don't currently have apprenticeship roles available in Houston. However, we do have a wait list because that is one of the geographies that we work with our employer partners. So if you are in that area and you don't see it listed on the application when you apply, you can email the admissions team and let them know you're interested in being placed on the wait list. Specifically for our IT apprenticeship would be the one that works with that location. And then there's another question about the college partnerships or credits. So right now, the only college credits or partnership that we have that provides credits through our program is SNHU or South New Hampshire University. They do accept transfer credits, and you would have to speak with their advisor on if you do or are planning on applying transfer credits, kind of how that would apply to the credits you're receiving with us. We are not currently offering a cybersecurity bootcamp and apprenticeship, but it will possibly be offered in the future. We did used to have one, so I know that they have been thinking about revamping that. I see a question, or it's not really a question about the data analytics apprenticeship. I'm not sure if you can type your specific question, but I'm happy to answer if you have one. The salary range for the data apprenticeship is currently starting at $35,000 and ranges to $45,000. And then the ServiceNow apprenticeship, I will place the application link here in the chat or in the Q&A. It is in the chat as well. That's the general application link for all programs. And then I think that's the last question. Does anybody else have any questions, or if you want to take a few minutes just to utilize the Q&A really quick before we wrap up? And then Christian, did you have anything to add that you can think of that may be helpful?
One of the questions around the SNHU, I did just want to touch on that a little bit. So we do have our education partner, SNHU, and the credits that we offer in the apprenticeship is definitely confirmed transferable to SNHU. If you are looking for an outside university or a university outside of that, you can check with them to see if there are any credits we offer in this program align with their program and their transfer credits. So just wanted to just confirm that they're absolutely transferable to SNHU. You could check with your university of your choice to see if the credits are transferable there.
Thank you for adding that. So we have a few more questions in the Q&A. I see one. So if you have an interview, you aren't required to join the info session if you have an interview, but this is more just so to answer any questions, provide some information about the program and more details for you. So if you need to leave, you can if needed. So data analysts, I think, are used in a variety of fields to collect data or analyze data for different things. All companies and businesses use it. So from my experience, I've seen roles with a lot of companies offer data analyst roles to some capacity.
Yes, they're used, data analytics is used across the board. I mean, in education, healthcare, logistics, IT, manufacturing. So you can use data analytics just about in any industry and almost any field as well.
Yes. As far as interviews, if it's during the admissions or enrollment process, if you have an interview, the interview is really just used as a chance to get to know you, answer any questions that you have about the program and hear more about your background and experience to see if this program aligns with your career interests and your current goals. So there's nothing generally that you need to do to prepare as long as you've already completed and submitted the project usually involved in the enrollment process. So I see another question here. When should I be expecting to start the bootcamp for the ServiceNow apprenticeship? So if you've been accepted into the bootcamp and have signed your documents as far as your program agreement, and there hasn't been a start date communicated, if you can email our admissions team. But our next IT cohort for ServiceNow starts on June 6th. So that would more than likely be the cohort you're enrolled for if you have signed everything. I see a question involving remote opportunities. We do not currently have remote opportunities available. However, depending on where you live, it's not necessarily required that you relocate, as we work with a variety of locations nationwide. For data analytics, are there employers besides Emphasis in Tempe? I missed the answer earlier. So currently, Emphasis is our only employer partner. We do work to seek out new employer partners all of the time, and that's consistently. We have a team dedicated to that, so it is possible those will change or more will be available in the future. The interview, as far as for our enrollment interview, again, it's not a technical interview, so there isn't an algorithm test involved. It's just more of a conversational, casual interview to try to get to know you and hear more about your experience. I see a question about bootcamp scheduling or not being able to join bootcamp because of scheduling and you already had an interview. If you can please reach out to our admissions team. Generally, if you've already interviewed and weren't able to join, we'll usually contact you via phone to touch base and see what steps are needed for you to re-enroll. And then I see another question about payment during bootcamp or afterwards. So there's no compensation during the bootcamp. It's strictly just a part-time remote learning. We do have learners that work during that period, and that's fine as long as you can take on the time commitment of the bootcamp and attend each live session. And then after the boot camp, so towards the end of the boot camp, you would enroll or interview, I'm sorry, for a role with our employer partner. And if hired for that role, you would begin being compensated once you start the apprenticeship and start in your role. Erin, Christian, did you have anything to add on any of those questions or topics? Okay.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, great. Well, I'll wait a few more minutes. So if everyone wants to try to input kind of the last questions they have here. For the emphasis data roles in Dallas, yes, there are apprenticeship roles available for a data apprenticeship in Dallas currently. For our IT apprenticeship for Dallas, we currently have a wait list. And I'm just going to wait a few more minutes. I'll probably wait till about 12:45 to allow for other questions. And yeah, I do understand concerns around layoffs from maybe other companies. We haven't experienced that with Infosys as far as with our apprenticeship. If you are hired, again, it is a full-time job role, and you are able to continue beyond the 12-month apprenticeship. But that's not something that we've experienced with Infosys or that has affected the roles that we have with the apprenticeship. But great concern to bring attention to. I see another question. Is the apprenticeship for fresh graduates only? No, so we work with high school graduates, people who may still be pursuing like their undergraduates or an associate's primarily. And then we also work with people who may have graduated and are looking to, get started into a new career field. And maybe they've had experience elsewhere. So another question came in, is Infosys work from home, on-site, or hybrid at this time? So they have transitioned to in-office. So the remote, if you're joining the bootcamp, the pre-employment bootcamp will be remote. And then if you're hired for a role, the role would be in office. I see a question here around the Codecademy courses. As far as for the enrollment process, you're just required to complete those 4. You can go ahead and submit them. Of course, you're welcome to look over the other parts of the modules that weren't required if you're interested, but they're not required to move forward in the enrollment process. So for programs available for those who are already in IT, we do have learners who join the program that have background in IT, whether they're looking to kind of refresh their skill set, maybe look for a new job opportunity. The curriculum is pretty well-rounded, so it's not just focused on developing or programming. There are other components that are beneficial and valuable as well, such as cybersecurity. There's some networking and things like that in the curriculum for IT. I see a question around enrolled students for a bachelor's degree. As long as you are not graduating with your bachelor's degree while or before being hired, so within the boot camp or 3 to 4 months, I guess, after you start with us, then you would still be eligible. However, if you've graduated prior to receiving or interviewing with our employer partner, that may cause issues. And Christian, I don't know if you want to add anything there.
No, that sounds about right. So yeah, you could be pursuing your bachelor's degree, but yes, at the time of being hired, you cannot have a bachelor's degree. So if you're in a bachelor's degree program, and I have a couple of apprentices who like just graduated and they're like in the 7th month of their apprenticeship. So that's, perfectly fine. But just as long as you don't have it before being hired by the company, or at least by emphasis.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I think that's all of the questions I see in the Q&A. Does anyone have any other questions? Or if so, if you can please just type them in really quick in the Q&A so we can get them answered. And in the meantime, I'm going to list our contact information in the chat, specifically for the admissions team, our email here. And then I'll also put the application link again in the chat, as well as the apprenticeship page that provides the syllabus for each program and kind of general eligibility and information. Alrighty, so those links are in the chat if you need to copy them or take down our email to reach out to us if you have any more specific questions to like your application status or just need details about the program. And then Christian and Erin, did you have anything to add before we wrap up?
The only thing I wanted to touch on was Matt did mention early on, like the program, the 9-week program. It is an intense 9-week program, not to scare anybody. It is very doable. We have many of learners who, complete the boot camp and make it on into the apprenticeship, but just want to make sure that everyone is prepared for the time that you need to put in to the boot camp. So it's almost like having a part-time job. So like around 10 to 15 hours of commitment. That includes attending facilitated sessions and coaching sessions that we provide, as well as some self-directing learning and development as well. So it's very doable. We're super excited to have you guys in the program. But we want to make sure that like the time commitment, you guys are aware of the time commitment that it takes. 9 weeks is like, oh, 9 weeks, I can do that. But it's very intense 9 weeks, and it's actually going to feel like 4 weeks. It's going to go by so fast. But you have a lot of support. You have myself as your program manager. You have coaches who are there to help you, instructors, operations team. You guys have a lot of support within the program to help you succeed and make it through the 9 weeks and into the apprenticeship.
Any more questions in the Q&A? I hope everyone's copied kind of the links provided in the chat. I'll give everyone about I guess 2 more minutes or so just to see if we have any last minute questions that come through, and then I think we can wrap up if not. Alrighty, so I see some coming through. I have one that says, will the live sessions be scheduled? So we can work around them. The live sessions are scheduled on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays while you're in the pre-employment boot camp from 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. and that's Central Time. So if you're on Eastern, that would be 6:30 to 8:30. If you're, I know the Arizona timeframe, I believe, is an hour or two behind Central. So it would probably fall around 4:30 to 6:30 if you're on that time zone. And the session times are not flexible at this time. We may offer more flexible times in the future, but those are the only times at this time. I see another question asking, is the program free? There is tuition associated with the program. However, it is covered through grant funding and our employer partnerships. So there is not out-of-pocket cost to learners for the program. I have another question about being redirected for digital marketing when you applied. This may have been due to if you received a bachelor's degree, we would redirect you to apply for digital marketing since that is the only program with flexibility with that. If you don't have a bachelor's degree and you are redirected to apply for marketing, if you can, please email us at admissions so we can take a look at your situation. So I see another question about finishing a degree. For bachelor's and master's across the board for our IT programs, AWS, data, if you have a bachelor's or master's in any field, you would not be eligible for those specific programs. The only apprenticeship with that flexibility is going to be our digital marketing apprenticeship at this time. The dates and times for boot camp, the live session schedule are Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays from 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. and that's Central Standard Time. And I also just put it in the chat just in case. I see a question around opening opportunities in Atlanta. There's not currently opportunities available in the Atlanta area. We reached capacity, and that location would be for our IT apprenticeship. We do have a wait list for those interested or that prefer that work location. So if you are in Atlanta or prefer only that work location, you can email us if you're not on the wait list already. We do have a wait list for that location though. Alrighty, so I don't see any more questions about, at this time, one just came through about opportunities in Indiana. So we do have opportunities in Indianapolis for all of our programs with the exception of digital marketing. So for AWS, data, and IT. The next session, so that's a great question, upcoming start dates for programs. So for our data apprenticeship, our next cohort begins on May 23rd, which is this upcoming Monday. We also have a cohort that will be in June. It begins on June 20th for data. And then for our IT apprenticeship, the upcoming start dates are June 6th, which is a Monday, and then also July 11th. For our digital marketing apprenticeship, the upcoming start date is on July 11th. As well. And then our AWS apprenticeship is currently, and new enrollments are currently paused pending the start date for the next cohort.
All right, everyone. Sorry about that. I think Taryn was just having some technical difficulties there, but thank you so much for joining. We will be sending out the webinar recording to everyone who attended. So if you jumped in late or missed the answer to one of the questions, you'll be able to watch that recording once we email it out to everyone. And just make sure to copy the application link if you're interested in applying, and the admissions team email address if you have further questions. Thanks so much.